We're not messing around. We mean it when we say that this is the most powerful production car in the world. We know, you've heard that before, but this is the real McCoy. With almost 4 times as much horsepower as a Ferrari 458, which is no slouch itself, this speed demon is breaking records like it's going out of style. And yes, this exotic beauty has got an exotic name to match: the Lotus Evija. Evija derives from Hebrew, and it means to breathe. But it's a lot more likely that you'll have your breath taken away when you get into this car. Grab a chair and hold on. We're going to be taking a thorough look at the world's newest hypercar. It is our pleasure to introduce the 2020 Lotus Evija, first announced at the Shanghai Motor Show back in April 2019. This absolutely stunning piece of machinery is finally ready to hit the market. The exterior of the Evija features a meticulously crafted monochrome design, and it is the first and only Lotus to feature a single-piece carbon fiber monocoque, or single-shell chassis. The single-shell design has many performance benefits and keeps the car relatively light at just under 3,700 pounds or 1,700 kilograms. The exterior of the Evija is enhanced by an eye-catching yellow and black pattern. The body is kept sleeker with the omission of mirrors or door handles anywhere on the car's exterior. Instead, cameras provide the lucky driver with a rear view, and dihedral butterfly doors are operated electronically by the Evija's key fob. The interior of the car is just as impressively equipped. With a dual-zone climate control system, an infotainment system compatible with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and an Alcantara trim, the Evija's interior is the perfect marriage of functionality and elegance. On top of all that, its 3,700 pounds make it the lightest electric hypercar on the market. You just heard right, this car is fully electric. We know, we didn't think it was possible either. The Evija's fully electric engine boasts a range of 250 miles per WLTP cycle. To put that in perspective, the Tesla Roadster boasts a range of 600 miles per cycle. Interestingly though, Lotus worked with Tesla to create the original Tesla Roadster, which drew a lot of inspiration from Lotus sports cars. But that's enough about Tesla. The Lotus Evija's battery charges incredibly fast in just 18 minutes, and it can easily top 200 miles or 320 kilometers per hour. Lotus claims the car can do 0 to 60 in less than 3 seconds. The Evija also features 5 distinct driving modes: range, city, tour, sports, and track, to adapt to the driver's changing needs. What's more, the Evija has 4-wheel drive capability, though we probably wouldn't recommend driving it in the snow. Give this video a quick thumbs up if you agree, comment below if you don't. Alright, let's get back to the showroom. We know, you're waiting for the main event. Okay, let's talk about horsepower. Before we give you the numbers, we thought you might like to know a little thing or two about horsepower. Did you know that in mathematical terms, 1 horsepower is equivalent to the power needed to move 550 pounds 1 foot in 1 second, or 33,000 pounds 1 foot in 1 minute? If you did, well, you're pretty smart. Horsepower is calculated by measuring the torque, or rotational force of an engine, and plugging it into an equation with the RPM, or revolutions per minute. Depending on the way you're using the vehicle, the torque and horsepower can be used to create speed, or in the case of trucks, power for hauling heavy loads. This explains why a pickup truck can have more horsepower than a sedan without achieving the same top speed. In the case of the Evija, all 2,000 of its horses are used for pure speed. So if you're wondering how this car stacks up with other supercars, is it really 4 times as fast as a Ferrari with 500 horsepower? Well, the answer is, technically, yes. We know that may have just blown your mind, and we'll give you a second to let it sink in.
You guys! Enough!
You may be getting excited and wondering how you can get your hands on one of these hypercars. Allow us to bring you up to speed. Though the car is currently in production and can be ordered and purchased through Lotus, the first Evija won't hit the streets until sometime later in 2020. Lotus has announced that they will produce only 130 units of the electric hypercar, creating the exclusivity that helps justify the whopping €2 million price tag. That's approximately 2.5 million US dollars. However, that price is still fluctuating, and many of the sales of hypercars are negotiated individually behind closed doors. Compared to other supercars, the Lotus Evija actually falls well within the expected range for a car of its caliber. The Bugatti Chiron, the basic model for the famous supercar company, sells for approximately $3 million, while the latest Ferrari, The F8 Tributo sells for just under $300,000. Neither of these supercars is quite as good on gas, though. If mileage is a concern, you could always buy a fleet of 100 Toyota Priuses with your $2.5 million instead. Just some food for thought. Speaking of food for thought, you might be asking yourself why Lotus decided to take the chance on an electric hypercar, when many of the other established players have chosen to stay away from the electric motor. Well, the reasons that the other guys haven't gone the electric route are numerous, but basically, electric hypercars generally can't operate at full performance for very long before their batteries begin to drain and overheat. The inability to overcome this problem is a major reason why high-performance automakers like McLaren and Ferrari have kept away from all-electric engines. Lotus, however, had their sights set on changing the game. Only time will tell, but the Evija does look poised to be a pioneer in the electric hypercar market and to take the hypercar game green. Now let's take a look at some of the Evija's closest competitors. Firstly, let's take a deeper look into the Bugatti Chiron. Did you know that in August of 2019, with steely British driver Andy Wallace behind the wheel, a modified Bugatti Chiron limited edition model reached an unprecedented top speed of 304 miles an hour. This is the first and only time a production hypercar managed to cross the 300-mile-per-hour threshold. As we mentioned, this historic vehicle comes with a $3 million price tag, and that's for the base model. Another impressive machine is the cleverly named Ferrari Le Ferrari model, with a 950 horsepower 6.3-liter V12 engine. The Le Ferrari has a top speed of approximately 210 miles an hour, which makes it comparable to the Lotus Evija, though boasting only about half the horsepower. Only 500 copies of this iconic machine were made, and they came with a price tag just north of $2 million. Next on the list is the difficult to pronounce and even more difficult to ignore Koenigsegg 1-1. With a price tag exceeding $3 million, the Koenigsegg justifies itself with its turbocharged, ethanol-fueled V8 engine, which pumps out over 1,300 horsepower and which can accelerate to 250 miles an hour in under 20 seconds. Despite its overwhelming power and top speed that exceeds the Evija's, the 1-1 is extremely comfortable at cruising speeds. Finally, let's take a look at the Pininfarina Battista. This Italian supercar may be one of the lesser-known of the Evija's competitors, but it's the only one that is also entirely electric. With an 1850 HP engine, a comparable top speed just north of 200 miles an hour, and a comparable price tag of $2.5 million, the Battista and the Evija are bringing in the future together. Choosing between these two futuristic rides may just be a matter of taste. The idea of supercars looking like cars from the future isn't something restricted to the electric hypercar. In fact, it's something that most supercar manufacturers seem to be going for. This is definitely the case with Lotus's upcoming electric hypercar, but the Evija isn't the only one. In fact, supercar giant Lamborghini is currently developing a concept vehicle called the Terzo Millennio, or Third Millennium in English, which would completely revolutionize car manufacturing as we know it. Lamborghini is working on a battery that would be able to recapture lost kinetic energy, thus maximizing power in a way we haven't seen yet with electric batteries. Also, the carbon fiber composite frame would have a self-monitoring system that would allow the vehicle to self-inspect for any cracks in the frame or any underlying issues as soon as they turn up. Though there still aren't any time frames or set objectives, and the car is still only a concept, the excitement for this futuristic ride is already palpable. On the other hand, there are car manufacturers pushing the boundaries of what a personal vehicle can do. Take the Hyundai Elevate, for example. This UMV, that's ultimate utility vehicle, can literally climb up and down stairs and the sides of rocky mountains. Though this car is not nearly as fast as the Evija, its futuristic versatility makes it unique in its own right. If these futuristic cars interest you, check out the video we made about them and other futuristic rides after this one. The link is in the video description below. So let's say you wanted to get your hands on a 2,000 horsepower car, but you didn't have $2.5 million to spend on a Lotus Evija. Could you customize and modify your own car? Why, we're happy you asked. There are several ways that you can modify your car to increase horsepower, like a cold air intake. Cold air has a higher oxygen density than hot air does, and the more oxygen an engine receives, the more power it puts out. Cold air intakes can increase the power of your car by up to 20 horses. Replacing the headers and exhaust can be another way to go. Replacing the car's exhaust increases airflow and can add up to 50 horsepower to your car. For dramatic results, you could always buy or build a bigger, better engine. Or if you're feeling really daring, you could have your car fitted with a nitrous oxide kit, which can add a lot of horsepower and torque to your engine. NOS kits can add anywhere from 50 to 500 horsepower to an engine, depending on the size of the kit. Nitrous oxide dramatically increases the amount of oxygen available during the combustion process, thus dramatically increasing power. However, it is important to note that adding a NOS kit to your car will void the warranty. It might also be wise to make sure your brakes are strong enough to handle your ride's newfound power. Coming full circle, it all comes down to power, doesn't it? If there's one thing the Lotus Evija possesses, it's power. So much so that it's breaking world records. The Lotus Evija doesn't only possess more horsepower than any other electric car on the market, it possesses more power than any other car on the market, period. The 2,000 horsepower Evija beat out both the Hennessy Venom F5 with 1,450 horsepower and the Bugatti Chiron with 1,500 HP. In terms of flat-out performance on a racetrack, the Lotus Evija is an absolute spectacle and remains absolutely untouched by any other electric vehicles. Well, that's all for us today. What do you think of the potential for electric hypercars to outperform gasoline hypercars in the future? Show us your excitement in the comments. Please leave a like and share this video with your friends. Also, remember to subscribe and click that little bell. Then you'll be notified whenever we post something new. And you provide us with the torque we need to keep creating. Thanks for joining us today at The Richest. We'll see you next time.